Well, the first step for me to doing any work on the Jeep is to heat the garage, which the dogs, they got electric heaters in here that keep them warm. What they really like is wood heat, don't you guys? Anyhow, so getting ready to start working on this project. Got all the stuff I'm doing to the Jeep, but step one, get the fire going. Step one's a fire, huh, guys? Yep. And they'll be my helpers for the project. Well, for me, for changing transmission oil, I had an additional step, and that is my aluminum skid had to come off. But if you're wondering about whether or not there's enough room under here to remove the pan after the skid's off, and there is. It clears the back one just fine. You'll have to dodge the exhaust pipe like on the stock one, but came right off. So that just lets you know that if you have an RTEC, you can still change your transmission fluid without any major headaches. Transmission pan is off. Those aren't very tight, and it didn't take much to get it to come loose. I took all of them out. I just barely bumped it and it popped loose. I'm catching all the oil there except for what splashed out. But there we go. It does not look clean, I hate to say. So the Jeep manual officially says you never have to change this fluid. The manufacturer of the transmission says that you do. So I'm changing the filter and the fluid within the levels that the manufacturer said, the guys who make the transmission versus Jeep. This fluid is not pristine. So at 70-some thousand miles, 73,000, it's probably a good time to change it. So I'll take a look in there, see if there's anything else I need to see. That's where all the magic happens, right there. We'll let it drip into the pan here a little bit. And here's the pan. There is some metal flakes in there. I can see some sparkles near the filter. So I don't know how much sparkles are supposed to be in your transmission fluid, but there's obviously a little bit of a brand new filter and all the parts to put in here. I'm going to go ahead and replace those. These are the plugs, and these magnets, oops, these magnets are supposed to catch some of that, and there is stuff that they've caught on there. I don't know if that's normal or if that's way too much for the transmission, but it's been catching metal for sure. So remember, Jeep says that's lifetime, that you're just supposed to let that stay in there. And I'm happy to get it out. Hopefully, hopefully that's normal. I don't know. It looks like a lot of metal to me to leave in there forever. This is the new one. Comes with new nuts and new filter. This is Mopar one, by the way. I didn't want to get anything for the transmission under the Mopar. I don't know. I know there's a lot of better brands, but for most of the engine stuff and transmission stuff, I always go with the Mopar. Just because I know it was designed to fit, where, I don't know, some of that stuff you get at the auto stores, you look at it and you say there's no way that these two things were born in the same place. So anyway, I'm going to clean this up and then we will reattach it. And there is a pattern on here. It shows you which order to torque it in when you put it back in. About the gas, there are questions about the gasket sometimes people have. It comes with a gasket and a really super fine piece of sandpaper. Super fine. It feels like tissue paper almost. It's just enough to take any scuffs off, get that edge all cleared up on it, and then I'll use it underneath too. So you're mounting it surface to surface, nice and clean. So Yeah, it works pretty good. Okay, so here we are, nice and clean. Everything's all set up. Now you put a little oil around this O-ring, and then this is the order. Comes with the Mopar pan. It tells you which one's the torque. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it's going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12 and 13. You know, just to be sure your gasket doesn't get torn and gets put in there nice and evenly. Getting the transmission pan in isn't all that tricky, but you do have to put a twist and a turn on it when you put it under there because of where the exhaust is. So you'll have to slide it up and then slowly kind of angle it and twist it and then get it up there before you ever put any bolts in. Just and then set it up there and just put them in lightly at first, and when you torque them down, do them in that order. All said and done, the transmission ended up taking about 5 3/4 quarts. That was after jacking it up, making it level, and then running it until it got up to temperature, checking the level a couple of times. I ran it through some of the gears that they said to do, run it in reverse did all of that, and then took it for a test run, ran it all the way up, and boy, it shifts smooth. It makes a huge difference. I'd forgotten how smooth this transmission could shift because I was getting sometimes between third and fourth, and some of those others you'd get a little bit of like a hesitation or something, and also it's quieter. So I'll probably jack it up one more time now that I've ran it out and around, and do the same thing, get it up to temperature again tomorrow, and take the plug out when it's running and be sure that it's right at the right level, and then I'm going to seal that up and say it's a done deal. But yeah, I'm not that lifetime transmission fluid. There's no way that was a lifetime fluid. I mean, I put the same stuff back in, but that's not a lifetime fluid. You could see the color is extremely different. I don't know. I don't think that I worked this Jeep any harder than a normal Jeep would be worked. I redid my gearing, so the transmission isn't really, outside of factory specs. So I think it's just a myth that you can run these transmissions forever without changing the oil. I wouldn't do it. So another thing that I did was to change the transfer case fluid. It's a pretty simple process. You use this for your drain plug here, and then this is your fill plug. So you take this one out, and when it all's done draining, then you put that plug back in and fill it until it starts to come out of this hole, and then your transfer case is good. I think I didn't look. I think it's every 30,000 miles or something like that you're supposed to drain that. Maybe it's not that close. Anyway, this was the second time I did it since I owned it. So in 70,000 miles, it had the original oil. I drained it once, and this was the second time. So I probably overkilled it a little bit because the oil didn't look very bad at all this time. Not like the transmission oil, which was obvious it needed to be done. Those two fluids are done, and we should be set to go for next year. I always do my maintenance in the winter like this because who wants to do maintenance when you could be on the trail? That's my thought. So here you see how much space there is between the tire and the sway bar. I don't think they've been hitting looking at them. These are the ends that I keep greasing that kind of are failing. So I'm going to replace that with the Metalcloak one and see how it goes from there. I'll show you a video here. Pretty simple, just a bolt there and bolt there. You can take this one out, measure it. This Jeep's really well aligned, so I don't need to. I don't want to change the angle or anything on this, so I'll just make it the exact same length and put it back in. So now we have a lot of space between the tire and no more loose joints, so that should keep everything up and where it should be. There we go. If you haven't changed your brakes on the Gladiator, On the front, I used the C-clamp on the pad and the caliper and squeezed them back a little bit to get them off. There's plenty of play on them now. On the rear, I just use this plate and also a C-clamp again, and just give it a slow tighten. Make sure the lid of your brake cylinder is off, and you squeeze that back, and just do it gently, and then you should be good to go for getting the brakes all back on. I did have a couple of pins that were rusted on. They didn't look like they ever had grease on them, so if you start getting a squeaking on your caliper pins, could be that they didn't grease them from the factory. So there wasn't any grease on the two pins on that side, which it was starting to squeak a lot. So that kind of explains why. All the brakes are all set. I took the rotors in and I'm having a shop turn them. Didn't look like they had any grooves in them. They're just going to resurface them lightly, and I'll put them back on with the new pads, and we'll be set for another 75,000 miles. That's what I'm hoping anyway. I'm just going with the stock rotors. I know people swear by the other ones, but I've had the best luck with stock rotors. They just last and last and last, and if you get one turn out of them, or even some people get 2 or 3, well, one turn out of them is, they don't owe you anything after that. That's where we're at. So we'll have all new brakes all the way around, and new transfer case, new oil, new transmission oil, a whole bunch of things we've done. So I had the rotors resurfaced. Cost me $80. The steel and everything in the ones that they're selling you when you buy your vehicle is better than sometimes the Chinesium and stuff you get in other ones. So just turn them a little bit, and these didn't have any deep grooves on them or nothing. So just turn them a little bit, get me a lot more life out of them, and it saves you money. You can buy some Chinese ones for $250, $260, $300, but for $80 you have better ones. They've just been resurfaced. Well, it's a beautiful thing. Rented a ball joint press and got new ball joints pressed in. Still waiting to do the RCV rebuilds. I'll probably do that tomorrow and get those all done, but when it's all done, this front end should be nice and tight and like new. So, all right. So the next step was the new Reid knuckles. Everything's torqued to specs now, and Newcastle nuts and cotter pins on it. So yeah. Next step will be rebuilding the RCVs and putting the shafts back in, and wheel hubs and front brakes, and then this job will be done. They do say that you have to redo your toe in after putting the new hubs on, because there could be some variance there from what stock is. So we'll have to do that too. I'll wake up in the morning and start rebuilding the RCVs. That's the job I'm not looking the most. That's the job I've just hated the idea of doing these, but some people say it's easy and some people say it's a nightmare, so I guess I'll let you know. Well, the RCVs, which I was so terrified that was going to be a big job, have cleaned up super easy. They're easy. They came apart easy. They're going to go back together easy. I'll put the new grease on them, got them all cleaned up, and I'll put my axles back in. But yeah, I've just been using a hammer and a punch, and everything just popped right out. And then I'll go back in, and I got a whole bunch of new grease to put in them and get them all ready to go. Not quite the finished product, but I got the RCV joint in, all rebuilt, all re-greased, new hub. I'll be attaching the brake stuff yet, and the shield and the rotor, but well, it's all done except for I'm gonna have to align it. Something I tell you that you need to do after putting the Reid knuckles on is adjust your toe in again. I'll do the alignment here in the garage. So this is what it looks like all put back together and torqued down. I'd like to say that Synergy does a good job. They send you a whole list of the torque values for every single nut and bolt on the whole front end assembly. So when you change out the ball joints, you just have to go to their sheet and it references every one of them, so you just got it right there at your hands for the torque wrench, and yeah, it works slick. I'm excited about it. Then I still have the other 2 jobs that I need to do. I need to put in the apex steering valve, and I need to change out the belt and a couple of the pulleys. So, and then I will have finished my 75,000 mile maintenance stuff and upgrade stuff, and I should be good for another 75,000 before I have to think about anything other than changing the fluids. So